Hi guys, it's been a little while. We meant to record this video a long time ago, but since we got back from the trip, we just got caught up with work and just the busyness of life and didn't get around to it nearly as soon as we wanted to. But yeah, we just thought we'd record a little Q&A, just going over some of your guys' questions that we got asked on Instagram. Hopefully it'll be useful for some people. We'll try not to waffle on for too long, but yeah, we'll get into it.
It's now been almost 2 years since we got back from the last trip, and already it's feeling a long way away. Looking over some of the photos and videos this last week, it does feel like a long time ago. But when we were coming back, we were not really ready to come home. We were excited to see friends and family, but we were just running out of time and money.
Yeah, I think as we were transiting back at the end of the trip, we were already planning the next one. So we definitely didn't feel ready to come back yet. But the money didn't last forever. So yeah, the first couple of weeks back home were a weird one, weren't they? Like we did find ourselves missing just life on the road, and but also just all the like normal day-to-day life things just felt so easy, you know, like just getting water, being able to turn a tap on, not having to go and fill up the jerry can, stuff like that, having an actual shower. And it took us a while to get used to sleeping in a normal bed as well. I think the tent's actually probably
really
comfier than our bed. So we did miss all those little kind of things, and it did definitely take a while for us to kind of adjust again once we were back. And because we both jumped straight back into jobs almost straight away within the first week of being back, it did feel really weird just sort of doing normal life again. Yeah, definitely. So our first question was, how did you afford it? So in terms of how we kind of save up, we both work full time, Monday to Friday, so that helps. We try and pick up extra hours wherever we can. We do work hard when we're home, but we also, recognise the privilege of being able to save up. I know that's not something that everyone's able to do. So, as much as I think we do work hard for it, also feel very blessed that we're able to save up.
And when we were living in London before the last trip, we lived very, very simply. We didn't eat out at all, really, maybe once or twice for birthdays. And just kind of the little things, really trying to make the effort when we're doing the food shop to get what's cheapest. And it seems kind of really simple to say that, but that's just how we were living, because we were really driven to be able to do this next one. And my salary kind of just about covered our rent and bills, and like Ellie said, having two salaries meant we were able to put the rest aside to kind of save up. And obviously having a Land Rover isn't cheap to maintain, but actually our setup in Yak was really, really simple for the last one. We didn't have a fridge, didn't have a diesel heater, didn't have any drawer systems.
We don't have any kind of like really fancy or branded, overland mods. We tried to DIY as much of it as possible, so I think that did make quite a difference. Yeah,
and it did mean that when we were on the trip, it did mean we were lifting out wolf boxes to get things out from under our bed platform, or out scrambling kind of to the back to try and reach stuff that we needed for dinner. But keeping it simple meant it was a lot cheaper for us to actually be able to do the trip in the first place. Yeah,
I think if you're young and you've got the energy for it, don't let that kind of thing hold you back. Like there's nothing wrong with all the gear, and it can make your life easier, obviously, but don't let that be the thing that stops you going. In the few months running up to our last trip, so we were living in London, and then we quit our jobs and moved back down. We were actually going to set off quite a lot earlier, weren't we? But because of COVID and everything, we couldn't. So we were staying with my mum and dad in Devon for the few months kind of running up to the trip. So that really helped in terms of keeping the costs down. Obviously, we did pay them a bit of rent and covered bills and everything, but obviously a lot less than if we were renting somewhere. So that really helped. And just, my mum and dad kind of like traveling this way, and I think they really understand our motivations for doing this, and would want to kind of do something similar themselves one day. So I think it was their way of kind of helping us be able to do this, and we realised not everyone is in a position to be able to live with family like that. So that was a real help for us.
And in terms of when we were actually on the trip, we kept costs down as well. We would have liked to have eaten out more, but because of our budget, we just weren't able to. So it was £1 bread lunches really most of the days. Just because we didn't have the fridge, we were kind of just cooking stuff that was pretty much all vegan. So again, that brought costs down. And we weren't eating out a lot. And Ellie's a pretty good road chef, so we ate quite well despite the fact we didn't have a lot of money. But again, once we got to Central Asia, the food that was available there wasn't a massive range of food, so it was generally noodles and some grated carrot for our dinner.
Yeah, not always the most nutritious, but yeah, definitely helped us save. And yeah, another way I guess we kept costs down while we were on the road was not staying in campsites, so we tend to wild camp most of the time. And actually on the Europe and Central Asia trip, we managed not to stay in a single campsite, which is quite easy in that part of the world. I know it's not that easy everywhere, but yeah, that definitely made a big difference for us. And I know all of this is probably quite obvious and not the most groundbreaking advice ever, but I think all those little kind of cuts and sacrifices you make really do make a difference. Second question was why choose a Land Rover for this kind of trip?
I think the first point to make would be that Ellie and her family have been completely indoctrinated by her dad, who has been obsessed with them since he's been a young boy. But
That's true.
I mean, you've been going on trips in Land Rovers for, well, again, since you were born, haven't you?
Yeah, when I was younger, I basically thought I didn't have a choice. I would have been disowned if I didn't get one.
And I don't think I would have been allowed into the family again if I hadn't.
No, but yeah, there wasn't really any other option for us. I mean, it's obviously not the cheapest vehicle to run or to buy or to maintain, and it's definitely, you know, a hobby. You've got to really love them. That's what I would say.
I think as well for me, the simplicity of a Land Rover at this age as well. We've got a 300 TDI, so there's very little in terms of electrics on the engine, and you know, you can drill stuff in, you can add holes because it's going to leak anyway.
Yeah, it's just Meccano, isn't it? For
yeah, and the nature of the trip we were doing, we were going to break down at some point, so the fact that we've got something that is so simple meant that I could do pretty much everything when it did break down.
Yeah, I think anyone with a bit of common sense and access to YouTube, you can do quite a lot yourself, more than you might realise. Yeah, you didn't really know much before we left, but it kind of made you into a mechanic.
Yeah, we did a little trip to Spain the summer before we did the big trip, and it kind of taught me a few things when we were prepping beforehand. But yeah, I do just like the fact that you can add stuff on that you need, take stuff off, and yeah, it's really simple to fix when it does break down.
Yeah, I mean, for us there was just no other option really, was there? It's just such an iconic vehicle, and you know, I grew up watching all the old Camel Trophy footage and just fell in love with them from a young age really. And I know everyone says it, but there's just no community like the Land Rover community. It's just a global network, yeah, with a lot of love and support, and you know, wherever you are in the world, it's like you've almost got family there, and it's just amazing.
I think with Land Rovers as well, they're just so attainable in the UK. They're fairly easy to buy. They're not as expensive as they were when they stopped the production. And yeah, it took us everywhere we wanted to go. You know, instead of getting a van or anything like that, this meant we could get to those kind of unreachable places. And it's got that iconic, that kind of historic status, doesn't it, of adventure travel.
And obviously it goes without saying that they're just incredibly capable. There's a reason why people love them. Yeah, pretty hard to match off-road wise. Yeah,
and we didn't do anything to uprate any of the kind of mechanical side of the Land Rover, and it just always surprised me what it was able to do and where it was able to take us.
Yeah, I think it really kind of not restored my faith in their capabilities, but like really reinforced it. I was always a little bit nervous in, you know, when we're in like snow or muddy tracks or stuff like that, but it always surprised me every time. They're just amazing, like, you know, even just stock, how they come out of the factory, they're just so capable. Next question, what were your favourite bits of kit on the trip? I think for me, one of my favourites is definitely our Coleman dual burner stove. It's definitely got its quirks. I think, yeah, everyone I've spoken to, they definitely have their own little kind of janky things with them, but it's just such a workhorse. It kind of, it'll go through anything. It's pretty tough. It's, yeah, it's fairly bulletproof. I love that it's got two burners. I think that's really helpful for cooking. I think one of the main things as well for travelling, especially when you're remote, is that it runs off petrol, so it can obviously be quite difficult to locate the
gas canisters
in some places, so that's definitely a benefit, I think, of using petrol.
Yeah, I mean, we used it up to 3 times a day for 6 months, and it never let us down. So
looks a bit grim by the end. Probably could have cleaned it a bit more.
But yeah, we wouldn't go without it.
Yeah, definitely.
I think for me, having good quality clothing, obviously we said we didn't spend much on the build or getting yak ready at all really, but I think the one expense we wouldn't spare is paying good money for clothing, because And the start of the trip, it was really, really cold, and obviously it got a lot hotter. And having good waterproofs for when it was wet, and good down jacket and good walking boots for when it was snowy and icy. I mean, it was such a morale booster, being able to stay dry and being able to stay warm. So yeah, I really wouldn't change that at all.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know whether it counts as kit really, but having a decent roof tent, we love our grit one. It didn't fail us on the trip. We were so impressed with how it dealt with really strong winds, a lot of rain.
It went through every weather.
Pretty much any condition you can think of, it just held up so well. So yeah, we're really impressed with it. But there are so many decent tents out there, and I think just investing in a good one that will last is definitely worth it.
Especially when you're going to be spending so much time in it as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's your house really, especially if, like on the last trip, we weren't really both able to sleep in the back. We didn't really have a camper build, if you like. So that was our bedroom, that was our house.
And the lifesaver jerry can, being able to have clean water wherever we were, obviously keeping us safe for most of the trip.
I mean, it's just the most fundamental thing, isn't it? It's a no-brainer. Obviously, it's not the cheapest item to buy, but of all the things you can buy, that's just one of the biggest game changers, isn't it? Having clean water wherever you are in the world is just amazing. Next question, shout out to our friend Matt from On to the Next Horizon for this one. He was asking about kind of bureaucracy on the trip, getting visas, our experience of any kind of corruption, bribes, police, that kind of general thing. Corruption wise, we didn't encounter nearly as much as we thought. I think going into it, we were definitely a little bit worried. You know, you hear stories.
We only really experienced 2 instances of corruption, I think, whilst we were on the trip. One was in Bosnia, where we got pulled over and he was asking us for documents that didn't exist, and he was only asking for €20, but we stood our ground, we said no, and eventually he got bored and let us go. And then the other one was coming back through Kazakhstan the second time, and this 6'7" border guard brought me around to the side of the Land Rover and held my passport open and went like that in front of the passport, and I kind of froze a little bit, but again just said no, tried to stand my ground, and eventually got bored and let me drive on.
Yeah, I think generally if you stand your ground, like, it might take a while and it might be a bit dull, or if you just plead ignorance, most of the time they'll just give up and just get a bit bored eventually.
Yeah, I mean, there was quite a heavy police presence from kind of Albania, Turkey onwards, but we came to realise pretty quickly that they weren't that bothered about tourists. We were pulled over once in Albania, weren't we? And
I think in Albania particularly, like, we were pulled over a lot, but as soon as they saw that we weren't Albanian, I guess they just moved us on instantly. I think a lot of people are more bothered about kind of the reputation of their country and trying to make a good impression, which is interesting.
Yeah. We knew we had to be quite careful in Kazakhstan because the road laws are quite serious. You have to drive with your headlights on all the time. If you get caught speeding at all, the fines are quite heavy. But yeah, the police were just interested in what we were up to, and
or checking we were safe quite a lot of the time, in Turkey especially.
Yeah, and a lot of them just wanted to take a picture with us for whatever reason. So
I think you'll hear the same thing from a lot of travellers. Like, it's never as bad generally as you think it's going to be, and don't believe all the horror stories. Obviously have common sense, and usually you can tell when something's a little bit off. I think our advice would just be stand your ground if you can. You might be there for a while and it might get a bit dull, but usually they'll back down. I'm just going to refer to my notes. This was a long question. Borders. Do you want to do this one?
Yeah, so the borders up to Turkey were a doddle really. They were pretty easy, and then kind of as we got further east, they got progressively longer and more difficult.
I think I wish we'd enjoyed it more while it lasted, all the easy border crossings. I think at that point we didn't realise how easy we had it. Anyway.
I think kind of once we got into Central Asia, the shortest border crossing was 2.5 hours. And to be fair, the process, it wasn't too difficult, but it was just long. A lot of people shouting at you in Russian and asking for V5s, and then them not being able to find anything because it's all in English. For me, the process wasn't too difficult. It was just join this line, pay this money, join that line. I mean, for you, it was a very, very different experience, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I don't know if you know, in that part of the world, I don't know if it's the same elsewhere, but as a passenger, you have to do the border on foot. So David would always stay with the Land Rover, and I would go through the kind of foot, don't know what you call it, foot passenger bit. So I would always be separate from David. So I think I probably felt quite a bit more vulnerable, and obviously being a woman by myself, and definitely got some kind of unwanted attention at quite a few borders, and did feel a bit uncomfortable at times. It was never too bad, but I was always very glad to be back with David at the end of it. And obviously a lot of people say this, but I think avoid, if you can, doing border crossings at night, because it just I think it's a lot safer and just better to do it in the daytime where you can.
We were really good at doing, weren't we?
Yeah. There were a couple of instances where we were in a real rush because we had to, my sister travelled with us for a bit, we had to get her to a flight, and so it was kind of unavoidable in those instances, but generally I definitely would avoid doing that.
And the first time we did a Central Asian border crossing, you were across through quite quickly, and I was waiting for a long time because they were checking through our phone, through our camera roll and stuff, and you were on your own. Well, you were with Fleur, but didn't
made
have
the
me
mistake of not having any cash, not having any water. It was so stupid. I think we learned after that one, but that was not the best scenario.
And obviously the whole border scenario with Azerbaijan was one of the biggest kind of things we had to deal with on the trip, with the borders being closed off, to land borders being closed to tourists and locals and anyone really, so you could fly into the country. We've talked about it a lot on
if you've watched our previous videos, you're probably sick of us talking about this or crying about it in YouTube videos, but that was definitely the biggest bureaucratic barrier to us. Basically they said it was because of COVID at the time. We're not sure. We know it's still the same kind of scenario now, but basically Azerbaijan completely closed their land borders. You could fly in, but they weren't letting anyone in. There were people there at the embassy every day in Tbilisi trying to get through to see their family they hadn't seen in ages, and it was all just a bit messy. And we were basically very worried because we weren't able to obviously the only other option was driving around Iran, wasn't it?
Or through Russia.
Or through Russia, which for obvious reasons we couldn't do. So basically this was our only way to get to the port in Azerbaijan, to be able to then cross over the Caspian Sea to Central Asia, which is the main bit of our trip, the bit we've been saving for 3 or 4 years. So we were really worried when we were stuck in Georgia for a long time, and thought that might be it for our trip. So that was a massive challenge for us, kind of emotionally and also time and budget wise. We were just being drained while we were stuck in Tbilisi. So it was a pretty difficult situation for us, but we got in the end.
Through sheer stubbornness.
It
was, I mean, it was a lot of phone calls to the Azeri embassy and the British embassy, and sometimes being hung up on because we start speaking English and they can't understand us, but eventually
some days we'd be on hold or just calling back for a whole day, and then we'd get through to someone at the end of the day and they just instantly hang up, and it was just such a knock for us.
We received a lot of messages on Instagram asking how we did it, and another travellers trying to do the same thing, but I think after us and another couple of people had managed it, they basically stopped letting people do the whole kind of transit visa thing. But we do feel really blessed to have made it to Central Asia. It was, those 3 weeks in Georgia were quite hard. We do look back on fondness with Georgia as a country, but it was very difficult.
Yeah, it's a shame we couldn't really justify going off into the mountains and seeing more of it, because as you said, it just looks like an incredible country, and the bits of it we did see we loved, but I think maybe just some negative connotations now for us because we felt quite stuck when we were there, and didn't really have the money to be kind of off exploring, but we'd love to do it again one day, under different circumstances.
Our most difficult border crossing was definitely Tajikistan into Uzbekistan, because it's basically the drug route from Afghanistan. They're so thorough, and we went in quite naive, actually thinking, it'll be quite an easy border crossing, because up to that point we'd known there'd be about 2.5 hours, but we got there at 12 o'clock. We thought, we're here in plenty of time. There were only 8 cars ahead of us. We thought this will be quite easy, we might be here for a couple of hours. But then as each car was going forward, we realised it was taking about an hour a car, and they were taking headlining off, scanning spare wheels, and
we only had like 7 or 8 cars in front of us, and we were like, this is gonna be a nice easy one.
It was nuts, and eventually they made us get everything out of yak. So we were taking wolf boxes out, taking down our strapping systems, and they had the drug dog kind of sniffing around the inside of yak. They made us open the tent. The dog got in the tent. It was bonkers. I think we got through probably by about midnight. So
it was crazy.
It was a long border crossing, and we were both pretty drained after it.
Just exhausted. I think that was the one where we lost our croc.
Yes,
pretty tragic.
And the one thing we were slightly nervous about with that border crossing was the drone, because you're not allowed drones in Uzbekistan, and we had no kind of intention of flying it whilst we were in there. We had tried to post it through DPD at a few different towns and cities in Tajikistan, but
I think we'd exhausted every option. We had no way of posting it over to the next country, and we were just really stuck, so we kind of took a chance and hid it, which we wouldn't recommend doing. And we were obviously very nervous because I think it was our friends that we met, wasn't it, in Georgia. They'd crossed through that border I think a few days before us. And the border guards had made them take the drone to like the no man's land bit and smash it up themselves. So we were just so scared. But at that point, we'd tried every way of posting it and nothing had worked. And as David said, we had no intention of using it while we were there. So that was our only option, we felt.
Yeah. The whole experience was quite nerve-wracking, but yeah, we managed to get through it.
Yeah. Oh, visas. We forgot visas.
Oh yeah. I mean, we only had 2 countries we needed visas for. It was Tajikistan and Azerbaijan after that whole situation. But yeah, really easy. We could do them all online. It just meant you were waiting around for a little bit, but actually all quite straightforward. Yeah.
Next question we've got is, what were our favourite countries from the trip? It's so hard.
That's really difficult, yeah. I think for me, my favourite country was either Kyrgyzstan or Tajikistan. I think I just never seen a country so beautiful. The mountains and the scenery we were able to experience were just second to none. We had a couple of days in Songkul, which were really, really special because we were able to see the way nomadic life was being lived still. So we stayed with that family in the yurt or a ger? Can't remember. Yeah, just really, really beautiful country, and people were really warm, really welcoming. And Tajikistan, again, really mountainous, really, really beautiful. I've never experienced hospitality like it. And
I think they just had that kind of remoteness that we were really craving. That's what we were so excited for this trip. If you've watched our previous videos, you'll know that we were originally planning on getting to Mongolia. So that was quite a disappointment when we couldn't get there because of things with Russia and everything there had kicked off. So we weren't able to go in the end, which was really hard for us. But I think those places, like you were saying, Songkul and the Pamir Highway in Tajikistan, they just had that rugged kind of remoteness that we were just so excited for on
I
this
think it
trip.
was at that point, and obviously physically we were the furthest away from home, but we it was where we felt the furthest away from home. But just unbelievably stunning countries and really warm people.
Yeah, just absolutely epic scenery, and we miss it so much all the time. And yeah, just would really recommend Kyrgyzstan or Tajikistan for anyone, whether it's like overlanding or like a backpack hiking kind of holiday. It's just the most amazing destination. You should definitely go. It's still fairly kind of untouristy and unspoilt, which I think is a real draw as well for us. Just felt super authentic and just amazing unspoilt natural beauty and really hospitable people. Other countries, Turkey definitely for us. We just have a real fondness for Turkey. I think we were there quite a while compared to some of the other countries, and it just Turkey, it really started to feel like home. And it's just got everything, mountains, coast, kind of deserty areas, amazing history in Cappadocia. It's just like the perfect country for overlanding and just amazing freedom in terms of wild camping as well. On the coast, even close to really touristy areas on the coast, we were able to just park up on the beach for the night. It was amazing. You couldn't dream of that in this country or most places in Europe.
No one really seemed to care either. There was a night we camped next to a tennis court in a town, and again, a couple of people walked past, said hi to us, and just weren't bothered. It's just overlanders' paradise, really. You can see why quite a few people go there. Just really varied, again, very warm people. I know it's such a classic thing to say in this kind of video, but they really are very warm, very friendly. We got invited in a bit, and just an amazing country. Would definitely recommend it. Yeah, Albania as well, probably.
Yeah, I think Albania, for people who are based in the UK, it's just such an attainable place, really. If you've got a few weeks, it's pretty easy to get to. Again, it's just the perfect place for this style of travel, pretty good freedom wild camping wise, amazing mountain tracks, incredible views, quite rugged.
You can get there so quickly as well from the UK.
Theth National Park was just incredible, wasn't it? It was quite snowy when we were still there, so it was quite challenging, the drive there, but that just made it more exciting, really. I think whatever season you go to Albania, it's just stunning. Definitely worth a trip.
Yeah, and I know we have mentioned it already, but we'd love to go back to Georgia. The bit we did see of it, really, really beautiful. Birthplace of wine. The wine was cheap but very tasty.
So good.
And yeah, we'd just love to see more of it. And again, it's not too unattainable for people from Britain, because you can get there if you drive hard in about a week.
Our favourite food was there as well. Food in Georgia is amazing. Pretty heavy. I think we put on a lot of weight. You can probably see in our videos. After Georgia, we ate a lot of bread and cheese, and it was very good. So last question is, where next? The big question.
Yeah, I mean, when we got back from the trip, we knew we wanted to do one more before we started settling down. And actually, this one was one that you really wanted to do first, but we just couldn't afford it when we were living in London.
Yeah, I think I did some maths and some planning and worked out we'd probably need to save for a little bit longer for this one. It's been a dream for a very long time, so yeah, I can't explain how excited we are. We will be leaving hopefully towards the end of September to do the Pan American Highway. Well, I say the Pan American Highway, but as most people do, we will be straying from it quite a bit. So we'll be doing South to North America. Yeah,
we're really, really excited for this one. It's, yeah, like I said, been a dream for a long time, been saving for a while now. And yeah, we've just started kind of the process of sorting out the shipping, so we'll be leaving actually very soon.
We'll be shipping from Europe, probably Rotterdam, I think, isn't it? Putting yak in a shipping container, which I hate the thought of, but I'm getting over it. We were originally going to go on the ship with yak, but they don't offer that anymore, which is a shame, but this will probably be a lot easier.
And probably cheaper.
Probably. So we'll be shipping from Rotterdam to Montevideo in Uruguay. We'll be flying out to meet yak. And then the rest is kind of TBC still. We're in the planning process. It's such an exciting but overwhelming thing to plan, just looking at a map, like, right, how do we start this? But yeah, we just can't explain how excited we are. I've wanted to do this for so long, and I think we're finally getting to a place where the savings are coming together, and I think we're on track. Still quite a bit of saving to do, and planning and getting yak ready. Just a few things to finish. So I don't know what to do with this now. Should I just hold it here? Anyway, yeah, we've got quite a bit to do on yak still, and a lot of route planning to do. Thank you, David. I'll just hold it. But yeah, we'll be filming some more videos as we kind of prep for that trip, and we'll keep you updated. But yeah, super excited. So yeah, I think that's about it for questions. If you guys want to know anything else, do just comment below, and we'll try and answer briefly in the comment section. But yeah, just thank you to everyone who asked questions, and just to everyone who joined us for the trip on whether it was Instagram or YouTube. We just really appreciated your support. We kind of just started doing this for our families, really, didn't we? Just to keep our parents updated, to let them know we're still alive. But it's just so nice that it's just such a supportive community, and that so many people wanted to follow the journey and were interested, and so just thank you so much for coming with us for the ride.
And a massive thank you to the man behind the camera, man behind the lens, Wolf the 110.
In his director's chair.